All right, let's talk about analytics and ad hoc visualizations, which can sometimes be called the same thing. Analytics is a pretty broad term and covers a lot of ground, so there's various ways to tackle it. Let's just look at a bunch of ways inside of Visual KPI that either it's doing some analytics for you already, or you can read analytics from other systems like any other data source, or how you can manually do some things. So let's first talk about some simple things like how do I just correlate a few things? And I'll take any particular visualization here on the screen, like this map, and say I see there's 3 KPIs that have a problem on them. What if I want to just trend them against each other? Well, let's switch the view over to a list of them. Let's pick the trend icon, and let's pick those ones that are giving us problems. Here, I want to take these guys. I'll take this one too, just for fun, and let's trend it. Okay, and there they are, and that's not a very good correlation, but you get the gist. Let's change the time range down to something much shorter, and let's make this multi-scale. And there we go. Now I'm looking at those things. One of them just a flat line, as you can see here. 2 of them are identical, so they're not a very good correlation. But you can see that very quickly with just a few clicks, even right from my phone, I can start to see some things that might make sense, or see some things that correlate with each other. So that's one quick way to make a trend. The second way, let's go all the way back to the dashboard here again, and let's look at a dashboard full of trends. So here, these are all on very different time ranges, 4 hours, 3 days, a month. Let's go bind this whole dashboard down to a 1 hour range. Let's look at all of these on a 1 hour. Let's see if there's any correlations on them. Let's zoom into how they're doing right this minute and see if there's any issues there. See if you see anything odd. So that's another way to just do these quick manual ad hoc trending or ad hoc correlations. It's one form of very lightweight, in the moment analytics, as opposed to a big business intelligence effort or a big investigation of some part. It also takes advantage of the whole real-time nature of what we do. Okay, so that's one example. Let's go back up to the very top here, and let's go and make sure I'm clicking on it. Hello. Okay, let's go and look at what we would call pivoting information. And I showed that to you briefly before. Let's look at a bunch of KPIs, and let's look at them from different angles. Let's see which ones have a particular unit in them. So again, in real time, I'm seeing what they are. And these attributes could change over time. So that's one pivot. Let's look at it a different way if we can. Let's do it by what plant name it's in. I believe there's Exton and Long Point and Pine Bayou. So I'm looking at it by site in that case. Or I could look at it by plant type. Maybe these are undefined. I don't know. Yeah, there's a few different ones, electricity and natural gas and undefined. So you have this quick, rapid way of seeing where your issues are in what angle. Let me show you a different one on a different dashboard here. This is a satellite one. I'm going to go down to service, this roll-up group. I'm going to expand that. And now in this case, I'm looking at many of the same KPIs once I drill down, but I'm showing you multiple ways to get there that might show you some insight. So in this case, this is broadband satellite work, and if I look at it by which gateway it is, then I can see which gateways have an issue. If I go back here and look at it by beam off the satellite, I might have a totally different angle. This only has KPIs in it. I might look at it by the type of service it is. So which one of them is giving me problems? And again, it might be mostly the same KPIs, but I'm having this quick way to navigate and see, here's by my retail provider. Oh, this particular retail provider's got a whole bunch of problems in it. Well, in this case, only 2 out of 3 KPIs. But if it had a lot of information in it, you'd see this very rapid way to say, well, let me drill down different ways to the same information and see. So I might have problems all with one of my suppliers or one of my customers. or I might have one of the problems with one of my products or a particular type. So there's lots of different ways to correlate and look through that information. Okay. Let's go down and look at, now back to this other demo, and let's look at some, let's look at what we call status history. So I'm going to go, let's go back to groups, and I'm going to go into Exton, our favorite group here, and look at the KPIs. And now here's sort of where the software is going to do the work for you rather than you manually looking and poking around and seeing if you want to correlate something. In this case, we're going to look at all of these KPIs. Let me, I'm going to regroup them back to their default view. So here are my KPIs, and then I'm going to run this status summary. So we haven't talked about these icons yet. They appear on any group of KPIs. And what they do is they look at the history of what's happened with these KPIs over the time range that's specified. So right now I have an 8-hour time range on this. And I'm going to go ahead and click this button and let it do its work. So some of these trends and some of these KPIs are very dense with data. So what the software is doing, it's going to take a minute here. It's going to go crawl all 8 hours of this data, and it's going to tell me over that time period, who's my worst performer? Who's my problem child in the group? In this case, the phase KPI keeps going in and out of good or bad states, and it's worth 17% of all my problems there. So again, that's over 8 hours. I could scroll this back in time and say, what about the 8 hours before that? And then it's going to go tell me if it changed, if it was different. So in this case, 8 hours ago, or the previous 8-hour period, the test 17 KPI was my problem. Let's go back to the now time and see that it's that phase KPI. Now that's the amount of times it's gone in and out of a bad state. We can also switch this to time and state. It's going to do the same exercise. It's going to go find out who has spent the most cumulative time in a bad state. And in this case, it's probably not the phase KPI because we know that that one's erratic. It keeps going in and out. We have a whole bunch of KPIs in this group that have just gone bad and stayed bad the entire time. So they're not in and out. They're not erasing the count of problems, but they are raising the total. They're ones you need to worry about because they've just gone bad and stayed bad. So again, this is just automatically running on any group of KPIs. You can also add this to your dashboard. You can filter it. You can do other things. Now let's look at a different one. Let's look at status history. Similar concept. That's when it's going to actually highlight this by the various status options so you can see who has or how many KPIs are in a particular status or have spent time there. So here you can see the majority of my time has been spent in good. You can also change this to time and state, etc. And then the last, and again, same thing, go back in time, filter the time range, etc. Filter out certain statuses. If I want to take away good and see just how my problems work, I can. The last one is notification history. In this case, I don't have any notifications for them, but that's going to tell me how many alerts have been sent out for those KPIs. So another kind of broad view of that. And again, this is that automatically running analytics at any time on any group. Nobody has to set it up in advance. It's just going to tell you about what's happening in the system. Now we can get into a lot of other analytics topics, but the last one I want to talk about, and we get questions about a lot, is do we support predictive analytics or machine learning, etc.? And there's multiple answers to that. First of all, our platform can support that. But the algorithms obviously need to be written. Those often take subject matter expertise in particular industries. So we fully support that. And then we also can read from any data source, and we support future data. So let me look at let me pull up this demo here. This is a demo with a company called Soulcast, which a bunch of really smart PhDs in Australia that are working heavily on some amazing algorithms for solar irradiation. And these are showing the predicted values of even watching cloud cover and individual clouds. And what it's really designed to do is help a solar farm predict more accurately what it's going to provide to the electrical grid. And the more accurate your prediction is, the more you make money, or the less you get fined for promising something you don't deliver. So there's a really great view, and let me just drill into one of these a little bit. Let's look at this one here. This is a trend where you can see the now time is here. And so on the left of the now time, you're getting the actual data. And to the right, you're getting the predicted value. So this is over time. We can zoom in on this a little bit and show just one window of time. You can see over a one-day period, they're going to get nothing, then they're going to get a lot. And it's predicting, here's today's actual, and it's predicting that it's going to go down. Tomorrow's not going to be as good. And again, we can support any data source like this and future data. And you can also get really creative with it. So you could say, hey, here's my prediction, and I want my actual to measure up against my prediction, and I want you to alert me if I deviate from the prediction by a certain percentage. So in addition to the prediction, I'm going to have those thresholds and limits and be able to put even calculations on them and do some really interesting stuff with future data. Same thing is true with machine learning. In our industries that we support, there's a lot of new companies and a lot of really smart people, both customers and vendors, that are investing heavily in understanding how to predict data, how to watch it, and how to watch leading indicators. Now, without any predictive analytics or machine learning, that's sort of the last one. You don't need any extra help to just be smart enough to watch leading indicators. Examples of those are like watching the vibration or the voltage in a motor. Long before you ever know something's wrong with the motor, these very sensitive signals will tell you something's on a bad path or starting to do something. And you can very easily go maintain it on a nice scheduled basis without an emergency service call or without it ever breaking, because you have a lot of lead time. So watching leading indicators means that things aren't going to go wrong. You're going to have a chance to fix them before they become expensive problems. So that's another little demo that shows another form of analytics and how we work with it. There's sort of the sky's the limit on analytics. So we won't go into too much more detail here, but there's a lot of different ways to pivot, sort, filter, correlate, and then support all kinds of advanced analytics. Next, we will go into the last major way that people interact with our software, and then we're almost done. So hang in there. You've almost made it. Thanks.